Hey everyone, welcome to Rebloom, the podcast where we explore the power of change, rediscovery, and living with intention.
That's right. We're your hosts, Lori and Jamie, two friends who really love a good story about transformation.
In each podcast, we're going to chat with inspiring guests who've made bold pivots in their lives or careers. They've let go of what no longer served them to embrace something more authentic, joyful, and true to who they really are.
And the best part, many of them reconnect with passions or dreams they discovered as kids. It's about finding the seeds planted long ago and letting them bloom again.
So if you're ready for real conversations about reinvention, purpose, and following your creative heart, you're in the right place.
Let's dive in and see what it takes to rebloom.
Lori, we have had the most beautiful conversations along the way. Some have just stopped me in my tracks, and this one has not only done that, I have goosebumps of just inspiration. Wait till our listeners hear this conversation.
I agree, James, and I knew it was going to be a good one. From the moment I learned about Monsi and learned about some of the amazing practices that she has created and has put into her life, I knew I wanted to speak to her and learn more. But her life story is so juicy too.
It's so good.
It needs to be a book.
It does. Listeners, you're in for a treat. Not only is this a joyous filled hour, but you will thoroughly be just mesmerized by the joy that she brings to others and the ripple effect that she has for so many. Hi, Lori. How are you today?
Oh my gosh, Jamie, I'm a little bit tired and a little bit jet lagged, but I'm so excited for this.
Where were you off to?
I was teaching in France at Paragord retreats. It's the second time I've taught there, and I love it. And we had a wonderful group of women, and they bonded, and they will be lifelong friends. And it's pretty magical when women gather together in the name of creativity. But today we get to talk to a really amazing woman. I'm excited.
I am so excited. Who is joining us today, Lori?
So a little background story first. I met Monsi through a group of Zoom calls created by our friend Dion Woods. She was kind of gathering women together to chat. And I met Monsi there, and I love some of the things she's doing. I don't want to give too much of it away because I want to hear it from her. But she is an author, a creator. She works as a communication specialist. She's in the Silicon Valley, and I just can't wait for her to share all the amazing things she's doing for the world that will make big ripples.
Oh, welcome,
So,
Monsi.
hi, Monsi.
How are you?
I am doing so well, and this has to be the highlight of this year for me, to be in conversation with both of you. 2025 has been a crappy year for me so far, so today is truly special because I love Lori so much, and Jamie, all your photos that I have seen on Instagram, I instantly, when I was on Instagram, your photos would stop the scroll for me because they always had that mood, they always had that glow, they always had that warmth, and it's very hard for people to feel something magical through a screen, but you are able to achieve that. And Lori's colors, her vibrant colors and her motifs, I mean, this feels very, as I was saying earlier to you, feels very surreal to me to be in conversation with both of you today.
I've got chills now. Yeah. You just made my day.
Here we are talking over each other, James.
Yeah, I know, as always.
As always.
Well, thank you for joining us. Yeah, thank you for joining us. It is such a joy to have you. You're calling in from California. We love having our guests from all over. And so tell us a little bit, Monsi, about your journey. And have you always been an artist, or is this something new for you?
I think all of us have always been artists. And I've always been confounded by that question because I think even engineers are artists and lawyers are artists. And, it's one of those things. So my journey, I feel, I was reflecting on this a bit yesterday with a parent at school where I was volunteering. My daughter's in sixth grade. And she asked me something, and I remember saying to her that I feel like my journey has always been about swimming upstream.
Hmm.
And when I say that, I mean, I'm in Silicon Valley. The culture here is very hustly, for lack of a better word. Everybody's always on, everybody always has their phone. It's like an extra appendage. Everybody's very much into AI. The conversations right now abound. It's just all AI stuff. There's lots of innovation. There's just people steeped very deeply into a culture that always demands more and more and more. And I come in with my anti cultural thesis of, hey, how about we slow down? How about we put our phones on silent, put them away, make eye contact, have conversations, get our fingers dirty with paint, and not care about it? And
Yeah.
it's seen as, wait, what do you mean? And
Yeah.
the reason I said my entire life feels like it has been swimming upstream in this sense is that my parents, so I was born and raised in India. I'm an only child, and a girl in the 1980s was something that was hard to come by. It wasn't the norm. So for my parents to say, hey, we've had one child, she's a girl, and we're good with it, was a huge rebellion in a way.
Mm.
And for them to give me everything I wanted, I had absolutely no needs that went unmet. Before a want came out of my mouth, it was fulfilled. But I see all of this in terms of tangibles. So this was all material products, no want for anything, whether it be dresses, books, supplies, whatever. What I didn't have enough of was my parents' time.
Hmm.
So we were in a middle
Mm.
class family. They both had to work. Both of them had a 9 to 5 job. And so at 6 years of age, I had a little cord wrapped around my neck with our house key. And I would
Yeah.
walk back home, unlock the door, come in, warm up my lunch, do my homework, wash my clothes, and read books till my parents came
Yeah.
home at 5:30. So I had 4 hours every day to myself growing up
Wow.
Wow.
in elementary school. And a lot of times I would finish my homework first because I wanted to get it over with. And then I would read some books. But then I started somewhere around third or fourth grade. I had asked for watercolors and I started doing watercolor paintings. And watercolor is one of, I've heard from people, the hardest medium. It's
It can be. It can be.
Yeah.
I somehow, because I wasn't officially trained, I just kind of did my own thing. And I would just look at paintings. I went by the illustrations in the books I read. And I would kind of illustrate or watercolor the stories that I was reading. So a lot of times I would copy the illustrations from the books. A lot of times it was just whatever I was imagining the scene would look like. And I would save my pocket money. I used to get some pocket money, I used to save it. And other kids would buy toys or dolls or things like that. And I would go to the bookstore and get watercolor paper. So that's how I still actually have a set of watercolor paints, tubes. Camel was the brand from when I was in ninth grade that I showed my daughter, and they
Wow.
still work.
Oh, wow.
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 That was from my pocket money. And as I grew older, my parents have always had a very acrimonious relationship. A lot of it is personality issues. A lot of it is that my mom was the breadwinner for a lot of years. And
Mm.
so the whole kind of patriarchal setup in limbo, how a woman in the 1980s navigated that was very different than how a woman would navigate that now. The level of acceptance was very different too. The concept of stay at home dads was not
Hmm.
prevalent or
Hmm.
accepted. And so there were a lot of issues with them. And I remember lots and lots of evenings just spending in my room. I didn't have headphones, so I would put a scarf around my head just to kind of muffle out their arguments and paint. And that was my
Wow.
escape.
Oh.
That was
Wow.
just my way to escape reality. And I started doing a lot of like fairy tale kind of watercolors.
I
And
bet that made you feel, that's one of the things that we've talked about a lot is just the need for creativity. And
mm,
especially when you're anxious or you're sad,
mhm.
and how it could be anything. I mean, it could be cooking or gardening or taking a walk out in the fresh air. But I bet that that helped because I mean, back then we didn't have escapes like a lot of television or streaming or any, which is a good thing in a way, but it's good that you had that escape, that beautiful
Yeah,
escape of your imagination. How wonderful that is.
it did help quieten the mind quite a bit.
And so, did you carry that forward into what you did professionally or what you did in school?
No, because in high school things changed. So I was
Mm.
15 or 16. So I don't have any of my watercolors, Jamie and Lori, because my mom threw them away. So she actually
Oh.
tore my watercolor books. She tore a lot of my journals because it was just not the way to be. And they
Ah.
said,
Oh my gosh.
you're an only child, you're a girl, you have to fight for yourself. You cannot be in your dreamland at all times.
Mm.
And the only acceptable professions are you can be a doctor, you can be an engineer. And since you have this my mom used to say, I have the gift of the gab. They argue so much. So I could potentially be a lawyer. So they were very, very academic focused. And I fainted. I was the only kid in high school who fainted while dissecting a rat. So there goes
Oh,
biology, I'm not ever going to be
oh,
a doctor.
So
I
no,
would have
no
been
med
right
school for
next to
you.
you.
Yeah.
I could not do that. And so my biology teacher was the one who then approached my parents because I used to journal quite a bit and used to write poetry. And she asked to meet with my parents. They went over and she said, Monsi feels like a person who is very smart. She could put her brains to use in whichever profession, whichever field she might want. I don't think that she should be a doctor, but she's very empathetic. She's a good listener. Have you thought about pushing her down the stream of psychology? And my parents went, psychology? What? And like, no, that's like second or third tier doctor stuff. No, she's not going to be a psychologist. Well, she doesn't have aptitude for math. So maybe the next best thing she can do is business administration. So she should get an MBA. And that kind
Oh
of
my
became the
goodness.
focus for 11th and 12th was sit for all the MBA exams. I must have sat for about 30 of them. I failed miserably at each one. And then I was shuttled off for a year to do computer coding because my dad had visited Silicon Valley for a conference and he saw Java and HTML posters everywhere along Golden Gate Bridge. So he comes back and he goes, Java is the future and you got to do coding now. And so I was shuttled off to Delhi for a whole year to learn computer coding. And the whole time it felt like they were trying for me to make something of myself. And I kept hearing the words, you have the brains to do it. Why won't you apply yourself?
Hmm.
And
Ah.
you internalize that stuff because
Yeah.
I'm like,
Mhm.
I am actually good at painting and I write pretty well too. So why
Right.
don't you give me a shot? And I was 19 when my dad finally said, okay, we'll give you a shot. What is it that you want a shot at? And I said, well, there's this National Institute of Design, and it's the premier institute in India that produces very, very highly acclaimed design professionals. And I think I have a shot at it because I know I'm good at art. I know I'm good with words and I just want to apply. And he said, how much does it cost? So it was 500 rupees for the application. He said, okay, fine, I'll give 500 rupees. It was a 2-day interview process where we had to go. It was a workshop style. So we were given clay, we were given problem solving things that we had to like do with our hands, jigsaw puzzles and things like that. They were observing us the whole time. And then we had an interview with a panel of 6 very acclaimed, nationally renowned artists. And so as a 19-year-old, you're sitting in a conference room, this big
Wow.
oak table, and there are all these people you recognize from TV and newspapers, film
Wow.
directors,
Wow.
musicians, in their 40s and 50s, staring at you, and you have this very humble portfolio of your paintings and writings, and they ask to see it. And so they're
Wow.
doing this whole interview, and then one of them stopped me short. My interview only lasted 25 minutes instead of the regular hour. He cut
Oh.
me off at the 25-minute mark, 20 or 25-minute mark. And he said, I can see you're a very good copycat. And I didn't know I didn't understand that. And then they just laughed about it. And they said, yeah, you copy the masters really well, but you have no originality in your art. And
Oh my
he was talking
gosh.
about my paintings. And it was a binder. So
Oh,
all my paintings were on the left side, all my poetry was on the right. And then another person who was a film director, he had won the National Film Award that year. He said, I think you might have a chance in a career in writing, but I don't see you becoming an artist ever. So I think you should just
wow. Oh
Oh my
my
gosh.
gosh.
I
Wow.
came out knowing I was not getting admitted. And I told my parents, they said maybe I should do some writing. And I had been writing, I had been earning my keep in a way in secret. My parents didn't know I'd been writing for 3 years for a national daily. I had my own column, but I didn't tell them because I was
Oh
so
my
worried.
gosh.
Wow.
So let's kind of put a time frame on this too.
Yeah.
This is in the
So
80s, 90s,
90s, this is in the
90s,
1990s. Hmm.
and you're still in India.
Hmm.
You're still living in India, and did you go to university or did
I
you? Oh,
did. So after school ended, I did go for my bachelor's degree in psychology, like my biology
Oh,
degree.
wow.
I did, but
Circle back.
on the condition that I double majored in psychology and economics because my mom was
okay.
not having it with psychology.
Yeah.
So it was
Wow.
psychology and economics with a minor in English.
Wow.
So I did get my bachelor's degree, and that's when I started writing for the Hindustan Times, which was a national daily. And I had my own column. I was kind of like the agony aunt for teens. And I would also write reflective pieces on what was going on in terms of just current affairs in the country, what a teen's viewpoint to what it
Okay.
means to live in a country at that time. And my parents didn't know about it,
Oh,
which
I
was
love it.
Wow.
I just had
Wow.
to hide it from them.
I had a daughter who did that. She wrote for the Huffington Post, and I did not know. And until she got published and then said, Mom, I got published. And I went, okay.
Oh, wow.
I got to love a little rebellion in you. That's really cool, Monsi, that you did that. But so you're writing, you're at university. Are you still painting along the way, even
No,
though, no,
19 when I went for that interview was the day I threw away all my supplies. I just kept my camel paints that I had bought for myself in school with my own
uh,
pocket money because
Oh,
it just
that
felt too
breaks my
expensive.
heart.
isn't that
I threw away
Oh,
heartbreaking?
everything. I had no paintbrushes, I had no paper. I just kept that one set of 12 watercolor tubes, and that's all I had.
I can see why
Wow.
the term swimming upstream, it
Yeah.
really makes sense. Oh my gosh. Yes, you've been swimming against a pretty hefty current too,
Yes,
your
Yeah.
whole life.
it
Yeah.
has been like that, but I wouldn't take most of it back. I think people say that you need to have it develops grit and resilience and all of that. Some of the hard things in life. I don't think that is entirely true because there's a lot in my life that I wish hadn't happened to me. I don't care for the grit that it resulted in, but there is a lot that I think if I hadn't had that experience, A, I would parent very differently, B, I would move in this world very differently.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
Mhm.
Yeah. I'm imagining
Wow.
that you're parenting your daughter at age 11 much differently. My guess is that you're not ripping up her watercolors. In fact, you're probably encouraging them.
She has a gallery wall in just about every area of her house.
I love
That's
that. I
amazing.
love that. That's beautiful.
Amazing.
That's beautiful. So, where were the pivots? Did you end up in tell us about your career when did you end up in the States, or
Mhm.
how did you pivot?
So the whole National Institute of Design thing happened. My parents were like, okay, we gave you a shot. Now, since you
Yeah.
haven't applied yourself anywhere, you're not really doing anything that's meaningful, at least to us. The only best course now is for you to get married. And we're going to do an arranged marriage. We already have these suitors lined up for you. And that's when I told them that I had been writing and I showed them all the clippings from 3 years, all my
Mhm.
newspaper stuff. My dad was pretty speechless. And my mom then said, so what's your plan? And I said, I actually just interviewed for a job in Bombay. So I come from a city, Lucknow, very, very small town in the north. And Bombay is like the metro. So it's
Mhm.
like going from, say, an unknown place in the Midwest, say Ames in Iowa, to New York. It was like
Okay.
Uh-huh.
that for
Okay.
me. And so I said, I've applied. And my mom said, what makes you think they'll hire you? And I said, well, I don't know, but I just interviewed this morning, so we'll see. And within 48 hours, I had an offer letter. They were going to pay me 10,000 rupees a month, and they would give me an apartment. I would be sharing it with a housemate, and I would have to start in 5 days.
Wow.
And I looked at my
Wow.
parents and I said, this is what I want to do, and this is what I'm doing. And my mom said, I will give you 6 months. If you are able to keep this job, and if you're able to make something of yourself, we'll push the marriage out. But in 6 months, if nothing's changed, and we are going to determine if something's changed or not, you're getting married.
Wow. Wow. So
Wow.
what happened? This is
Wow.
juicy.
The
Wow.
thing is, what also happened in the background. So this was in February of 2001. And I had graduated from college. I didn't have a job. I had spent that 1 year learning how to code. I absolutely hated it. I was very good at it, but I absolutely hated coding. And so this whole writing thing had become my escape, basically, from my plan to escape from my parents' house. And so while this interview process, this application, sending in applications process was happening, another thing that had started happening was on the night of February 13th, I received an email. I was receiving a lot of emails because one of my poems had won an award from UNICEF. And it was about
Oh.
young girls being sold to brothels by alcoholic dads. And this was a
Wow.
rampant problem at the time. So I had written a social commentary in poetic form, won an award from UNICEF. They ended up posting that poem on this website called powertoyouth.com, which was akin to classmates or batchmates.com. And Power to Youth blasted it out to however many people they could find email addresses for at the time, because there weren't any strong controls or opt-in at that time in
Right.
2001. And so I was getting a ton of emails, and they posted my email address, contact Monsi. And so I'm getting all these emails from random guys saying, want to be friends? And I'm going, block, delete, block, delete.
Yeah.
This is a very serious poem. I do not want to be friends with you, weird stranger on the internet.
Yeah.
But then I
Yeah.
get this one email on the night of the 13th of February, a long paragraph email telling me that I am very young to be having such dark thoughts, and I shouldn't be doing a social commentary of this nature. I should leave it to the adults, and I should be more concerned about matching the color of my bangles to my sari outfit.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, it rubbed me so many, so many wrong.
Oh,
Wow.
And
yeah.
I could have ignored it, but something inside of me got riled up so bad that I had to respond. I had to put this person in their place. So I responded with a 6 paragraph email, letting them know that girls are educated. We have an opinion. We are free to
Yes.
voice it. We live in a democratic country, blah, blah, blah. Send that email off. Within 2 minutes, and we had a dial up modem. It was not super fast internet, it was a dial up
Mm-hmm.
modem. And so it took a while, but because it was all text based, within 2 minutes, I receive a response. Profuse apology, wants to know me more, and says he is in Silicon Valley and he has a friend who has a cousin who goes to my school, maybe. So, when you leave breadcrumbs like that in an email, I'm like, okay, now you've kind of piqued my curiosity. I have to respond to this. Within an hour, we had exchanged about 25 to 30 emails. And he then realized it was Valentine's Day in India because it had just struck midnight. And then I get a GIF, a rose blooming, and he says, Happy Valentine's Day. And I was like, oh, at the end of the day, he's just a boy. Uh, I shut my dad's computer and went to bed. Didn't think that I would wake up to 12 different emails from this person the next morning. He's the guy I'm married to, by the way.
Wow.
How about that?
Wow.
That's how it started. But within 5 days, it was President's Day weekend for him. So 17th of February, he had said that he loved me, that he wanted to spend the rest of his life with me. We have not exchanged photos at this point. I hadn't really heard him. Didn't know what he sounded like. Just texting each other, emailing each other actually, and then we guessed each other's IDs on Yahoo. Yahoo was the only messenger at the time, and he told me he writes poetry, but he's never had a girl with the brains to have a poetic conversation with back and forth. So he would write like a stanza and then I would reply in a stanza. And so we would do this verse slam kind of thing.
Wow.
Very interesting. And it was a meeting of the minds, essentially. And so
Wow.
President's Day weekend, we finally talked on the phone. He used a pay card, a calling card that was like $100 for 30 minutes or something at the time. And we talked to each other. I fell in love with his voice. I thought he had the most beautiful baritone voice suitable for podcasts. And I just knew that this was it. Like he was the guy. And that next day after President's Day weekend on the 19th, I got my job offer from Bombay. And then I told my parents I got the job offer. I got to go to Bombay. And my parents gave me the 6-month ultimatum. My dad flew with me to Bombay, settled me in, came back. And now I had high speed internet at the office.
Ah,
And so we were chatting constantly. I was building a portfolio And we had this amazing, like, just night outs of conversations. And then he came to visit me July 1st from here, from the Bay Area. He flew down to Bombay. I went to pick him up. I saw him at the airport. It was 3 a.m. And I saw him coming out. He had described what he would be wearing, so I knew what he would look like. I saw him coming out. I turned around and I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it verbatim, but this is what I said. Shit, no shit, hell, no shit. What did I do? I couldn't bear the sight of him. He looked like this scraggly dude who was like starving from Somalia, and he had these Elvis Presley sideburns because he thought that was
oh my gosh,
horrible. Like, I was like, cringe. No, why? And then he came and he says, "Oh, there you are." And I was like, okay, there's his voice. This is, it's going to be all right.
Oh
we
my
could maybe
gosh.
do a little haircut and figure.
But yeah, so we pretty much solidified when we met in person that this was something that was going to happen. We were going to be together the rest of our lives, and now it was just up to us to figure out how to break the news to my parents.
Is he from India as well?
He is literally 2 hours away from my house by road.
Wow.
So we grew up in the vicinity, but our paths just never crossed.
That probably helped, I would think, sell this to your parents a little bit, because you seemed. Oh, it did not. Oh my gosh!
You're another upstream adventure.
Here's me thinking you're like the best little girl. Like, I'm still back at you sitting home doing your homework and reading books and being this good little girl, this little latchkey kid, and I'm thinking you are the best kid, and you're doing all this lovely stuff. So now you've met Prince Charming, sort of little scraggly Prince Charming. God love him.
So what
happened?
Well, it turns out, I don't know how much you know about the Indian hierarchical, the way society is divided. So there's the caste system. So there's 4 different castes. It's the priests, then it's I might get this wrong, so Indian people, please forgive me. But I think it's the priests are the highest, and then it's the warriors, then the tradespeople, and then the Shudra are the untouchables. So they're the ones who sweep the floors, the streets, do all the housework and stuff like that. So I didn't know this system existed until I met him, and this whole thing with the marriage happened, because my parents never talked to me about it. So turns out that our family was the tradesmen, so just one rung above the bottom. And his family are the priests. So they're the Brahmins, the highest possible that can be.
Oh, wow.
So it shouldn't be a problem for my parents, right? Because I'll be marrying up.
Yeah.
But the other classification in Indian society is the social classification based on wealth. And so there's the upper middle class, the lower middle class, and then people that are just impoverished. And then, of course, there's the rich, the elite. We were the upper middle class. And according to my mom, the way she described his family when she met him eventually was, my mom called me sobbing. I was in Iowa at the time. I'm fast forwarding a bit, but I was in Iowa at the time. This was a 2:30 a.m. call for me. She was in the hospital hyperventilating, crying, his mom's saris are worse than what I hand out to my maids. You cannot marry that family.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
And his parents were like, we're the highest class. And she's like, literally one rung above from the bottom. This is not happening. And both of us are going, well, it doesn't matter to us because we're not living with you guys.
Yeah.
We're by ourselves. So good luck sorting this out, because we're getting married regardless. So we actually eventually did. So what happened was, I came, he flew in, we met, then he and I flew into my parents, and they met him. And there was this whole, very dramatic Indian film, like, oh, boo-hoo-hoo, life has come to an end. And my dad's all, but we already have these suitors lined up for you. And I said, okay, what box does he not check? He is an IIT Kanpur graduate. It's the premier institute for engineering in India. He's a Stanford graduate. He has a master's degree from there. He's in Silicon Valley doing all the Java stuff he wanted me to do. So he has a pretty solid income. And he's on the cutting edge of technology. So what box is he not checking for you? And my dad looks at me and he says, isn't he really dark-skinned? And I remember looking at my dad, looking at my mom. So my dad's very fair. My mom's dark complexioned. And I looked at my mom and I said, have you met this woman? Oh, I'm so bad. I just hope this doesn't bite me in the ass with my daughter. But I just feel like my mom's always like, karma's watching you. You did all of this to us. But long story short, what ended up was he encouraged me to pursue writing more seriously and
Love
get
it.
a graduate degree. And he said, you're really good at it, but I think you just don't have any foundation. Nobody's actually taught you how to write. This is all very intuitive for you. And if you want to have a career in writing, because he didn't know about my art stuff, he just knew he
Uh-huh.
was me as a writer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So he
Well, there
encouraged.
was no art stuff because it
No,
got ripped up and you had
Yeah.
just
there was
12
Yeah.
nothing.
bottles of 12 tubes of paint. So God
Right,
bless.
right.
Yeah.
So he only knew me as a poet and as a journalist, writing for this magazine, a computer magazine in Bombay. And so he said, why don't you apply? So I spoke to my editor and she encouraged me to apply as well. And he paid for all of my application fees. So I applied to 5 different
Wow.
universities here. I got into all 5. And then it was a difficult decision because I was like, do I go to Boston University? Do I go to American University? Do I go to Montana? And it was my husband's decision, ultimately, that I choose Iowa.
That's a
Okay.
great
And
school. That's a great writing school.
I leaned in on him because he knew the lay of the land more than I did. I only knew about, the
Yeah.
names we hear mainstream. I was like, what is Iowa? I've never heard of Iowa. Is Iowa a place? And it has one of the best, the strongest writing programs.
Isn't that where Ann Patchett went? Like, I think a lot. I think that's an amazing.
Yes, but that
Yes.
was the
Yeah.
Iowa. I think they went to the Iowa Writers Workshop. What I got
Ah,
into was the master's professional program.
okay.
And I was the first Indian female to get a position
Wow.
there.
Good for
So
you.
it
Wow.
was
And were
super
you
cool.
married you were married
We
at
weren't
this time?
married. No,
No, not yet.
we were still going through the angst of the parents, and
Okay.
Ah,
it
Okay.
was very stressful at the time. And my parents did not know that I had applied because he paid for all the application stuff.
Uh-huh.
So I had decided I would tell them only if I got in, and I got into
Mhm.
all the universities, and then I chose Iowa. And so my way of telling my parents was putting a screensaver on my dad's computer, saying, "I got into Iowa. I need to fly out on this date."
oh my gosh. I'm feeling a little angst for your parents occasionally.
Oh
It's like,
gosh.
hey, now I'm not going to do the arranged marriage, which is a big deal. I'm going to move to Bombay. Now I'm going to get married to this gentleman in America, and now I'm moving to Iowa because that's what every Indian parents thinks for their children is let's move to Iowa.
But
You know what my dad's first
bravo to
reaction
you.
was, Jamie, when he read the screensaver, my dad's first reaction was there was no Google at the time, so he did a Yahoo search for how far Iowa City was from San Jose.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Why San
gosh.
Jose?
Because my husband was living in San
Oh,
Jose
that's where he
for 30 years here in
okay.
Silicon Valley. He's always been here. So my dad was, okay, so he cannot get there. He needs at least 2 flights. So he's not going to be there with you every weekend.
Correct. Yes.
So there's still
Wow.
some space.
So you do,
Oh
you
my
do,
goodness.
you do, and I'm going to kind of pivot for it could take us. Well, not. I'll take a, kind of fast forward us a little bit. So you're in
Mhm.
school, and obviously, I'm thinking. Well, we not thinking. I know you get married. When does the art kind of start to filter back into your life, and how is the and tell us about the writing too, because the writing was a big chapter. I'm assuming too.
Oh, absolutely. Writing, it was all consuming and I loved it. I loved being in school. I
Yeah.
loved being around people because it was a master's professional program. The average age of the student body, we had 12 people in the program. The average age was 30. And so there were
Wow.
seasoned professionals. There were people who were in their 50s in broadcast journalism coming back to school. And so they brought this world experience with them that we benefited from.
Mm-hmm.
It was a very different learning experience where our professors treated us more as peers than as students,
Mm.
which was very different experience for me coming from India, where you put your professors on a pedestal and there's this reverence and there's this hierarchy which dissolved in Iowa. And so just the American way of life kind of was very appealing, intriguing, fascinating. The freedom that I had just being here on my own. We got married in the court without telling my parents again. That's another. But we did have the Indian traditional marriage 6 months later. We did the whole thing.
I love
But
this
then,
rebellion in you. You are so fun.
I mean, you get just one life, right? You got
Yeah.
to live it on your own terms. And then
Yeah.
finally, I moved here in 2004 to Silicon Valley. Um, I graduated earlier, 6 months earlier than I was supposed to, because I fast tracked and just wanted to be here, just wanted to get out of Iowa. Because once I visited California, I was like, oh my gosh, the tallest building in Iowa City is 8 stories high. I cannot live there for 3 years. I got to get
Yeah.
out. So I came here in 2004. I started my career working for a foster care agency, a nonprofit, working with foster care youth and being their marketing and communications person. And then I moved on to various jobs in university settings, so higher ed. And I was always in the communications and marketing office, writing alumni magazines, interviewing the presidents, writing the annual reports and things like that. And interacting with the philanthropy department at higher ed motivated me to make my work feel more meaningful to myself. So instead of just writing alumni stories, I wanted to write alumni stories that meant something, that made people feel compelled to contribute. And so that was my pivot from higher ed to a nonprofit medical establishment where I was now interviewing doctors and nurses and asking them, telling their stories, but telling them in a way that people felt compelled to either send in money for research or for equipment or whatever the needs were. So that kind of gave me a little bit more insight into what kind of writing moved me and
Yeah.
what made me feel like I am contributing through my words. But then I resigned when I got pregnant.
So take us forward to what you're doing now. You call yourself the Ripple Maker.
Ripple Maker. That's right. It's come
So,
full circle. It's really
so
come full
tell us
circle.
about the genesis of that and
Yes.
where that's taking you now.
So the Ripple Maker happened because of my daughter. So when she was born, she had 32 different allergies. I didn't have a job. I lost my sense of identity. And just as I was telling you about how I derived meaning from my writing, I felt like I had no more meaning. I had nothing left to contribute. My only contribution was her. And I had birthed a broken child because a lot of people told me that, this is because of
No.
you. There's something that you did that made her be like that. And so
Oh.
I was in a very, very dark place when one morning I saw her playing with paints on our hardwood floor, and she was just belly laughing. She was just so happy. And instead of shouting at her, I started swirling the paint with her. And I said, you know what? Let's clean up and go to Michael's. And we went to Michael's and we bought actual good quality paint. And I said, we're just going to finger paint from now on. And that's how finger painting started. And because of her allergies, we never went out anywhere. She was always on top of me. So I nursed her for almost 4 years. I carried her everywhere. I had a toddler carrier made, custom made from Etsy, because I couldn't put her down. Because every time I put her down, we were rushing to the Stanford ER department.
Oh
Oh
my
boy.
gosh.
So it was just her and me the first 5 years. And we just painted. We have so many like finger painted canvases all over the house at the time. We didn't have any friends visiting us. We didn't visit anyone because I was just scared of people and she was scared of people.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just a food allergy, it was
No, she had environment. She had all kinds of random
oh
allergies, like things
my.
that we were discovering as she was growing older and touching and
Oh,
getting exposed to more things. But miraculously, they gave us a 7% chance of her outgrowing her allergies at any point in her life, all of them. She turned 5. We went in for our regular testing, which we did every 6 months for her allergies. And the doctor came back in disbelief and he said, I'm sorry, but I have to run the tests again. Can you come back tomorrow? And I said, what's going on? And he said, well, nothing's showing up on the panels. So I'm kind of like wondering what's going on. So we went back the next day. We went back the week after. They did 3 tests, 3 times the same tests, and she had no allergies.
wow.
All of
Wow.
them, just gone. And so then I was like, first thing, Mira, we're going to go eat Thai food. We're going to go eat pho. We're going to introduce you to Korean barbecue. We're going to go to all
Yeah.
the restaurants that mom loves going to that you've never been to. And we started going to these restaurants, and that's where the token making started because I was just so grateful to have that experience with her. And I wanted to express my gratitude to all the people because I was still scared. Like the doctors had said she had outgrown all her allergies, but I was like, I'm not so sure she has. So I would still
Yeah.
ask them to wash their hands 3 times, make sure that nothing was touching, the peanuts and the cashews, even though she had outgrown those allergies. And
Wow.
I just wanted a way to express my gratitude to them. And I didn't know how, except for tipping them graciously. Mira was the one we would always doodle. I always had pen, paper, pencils with me, and we would doodle. And one day she said, why don't we just give that to the server? And I said, you think? And
Wow.
she goes, yeah. And so I wrote, thank you very much, and a little note for him, gave it to him. That ended up being a 10-minute conversation with that guy about his nephew and the allergies and his own experience with
Wow.
allergies.
Wow.
And that
Yeah.
started that tradition. And so now, 7 years and almost 3,000 tokens later, I officially have a license plate that says Ripple Maker on my license plate. I
Love
have
that.
I
a
love
Ripple
that.
station outside our house. So it is an interactive art display. It's like a birdhouse. It's like a little free library, but smaller. And Mira and I have been making We were just actually talking about this yesterday. We've been making between 30 to 50 tokens every single week that we've been putting out there.
Wow.
And people just come and they pick up the tokens, they write something on the back. We put pens in the little house over there. We put examples of what they can write on the back and just hand it out to baristas, to grocery clerk baggers, and people that don't get appreciated very often.
I love that.
Wow. Well, you also shared when I found out about this that some of the conversations and the way that this touches people in really
Yeah.
deep ways and kind of unexpected.
It is, and I think what it has brought to me is the realization that we're all very deeply lonely, each one of
Hmm.
us. And
Hmm.
Yeah.
unfortunately, for better or worse, the internet gives us the impression that we're not.
Hmm.
Right.
And I feel, especially in Silicon Valley, with everybody's, you walk down the road here, everybody's head is down. They're either listening to something,
Hmm.
they're not listening to the birds, they're not listening to the juncos, they're listening to the podcasts, which, is good and bad, but
Right.
Hmm.
they're not making eye contact. And I feel like our kids growing up specifically in this culture, don't know how to converse. They
They
know how to
don't.
text.
They don't. And, it's interesting. On the Today Show, they were talking about how landlines are coming back for young children now because they're teaching young children. This is helping young children to know how to pick up the phone and say hello and have a conversation. And I think that this shift, I know, as you said, everybody's talking AI now and it's in every circle. However, I do think that there's going to be another conversation, which is for that analog and for that real and the conversations and the connection. I know that I felt it greatly during 2020, especially when we were all disconnected from
Yes.
one another. And while social media does help you to stay connected, I, it's the real it's the real conversations. And I do think you're right. Everybody feels lonely and they want to be seen, but they're afraid. And just to know that you're appreciated or loved is so important. So, so important. And it has a huge ripple effect.
And this practice has evolved into a book. You have a book
Yeah.
coming
Yeah.
out next year. Do you
Next
want
year
to
with
talk
Schiffer
about that?
Craft. Yes. So the book, it's interesting how the book has evolved too in the last year since I came up with the Ripple practice. I found a name for what I do. I didn't realize, it just came to me. So the Ripple practice, which is going to be a big part of the book, it's an acronym.
Let's take a quick minute and thank our amazing sponsors. Our podcast is proudly brought to you today by Jet Creative and Urban Stems. Jet Creative is a women-owned marketing firm committed to community and empowerment since 2013. Are you ready to rebloom and build a website or start a podcast? Visit jetcreative.com/podcast to kickstart your journey. They will help you bloom in ways you never imagined. And bonus, our listeners get an exclusive discount when you mention Rebloom. And a huge thanks to Urban Stems, your go-to and our go-to source for fresh, gorgeous bouquets and gifts delivered coast to coast. Use Bloom Big 20 and save 20% on your next order. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast and follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Rebloom Podcast. Thanks to our sponsors, and thanks to you for joining us today.
The acronym that I came up with for Ripple, the Ripple practice, is when I come to my table, I always reflect on what I'm bringing, just the feeling. I'm not naming it yet. I'm just reflecting on how I'm feeling. How is my breathing? Is it shallow? Is it anxious? Are my shoulders feeling heavy? Just reflecting on my physical being and my mental state. The next step is the I, which is identify. And that's where I name what I'm feeling. And that name sometimes is a person's name because it's tied into why I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Sometimes I have Mrs. Kapoor's voice in my head from 10th grade saying that you have no originality.
Hmm.
So I have to
Hmm.
tell Mrs. Kapoor to go sit in the corner. Thank you for
Yeah.
visiting, but we're not talking right now. So identifying, and then P is for playing. That's when I have no fear of the empty paper, the blank slate staring at me. And a lot of people talk about that. And my thing is, I literally close my eyes, I reach my arm out, whatever color comes in my hand comes in my hand. If two of them come in my hand, two of them go together on the paper. I just squeeze my acrylic tubes, and it's not blank anymore. And then I do whatever after that. So there's no
I
process to
love
it.
that.
The second P then is personalize. I make it my own. And how I make it my own varies from day to day. Sometimes it's gel plate printing, sometimes it's doodles, sometimes
Mm-hmm.
it's mixed media, or just cutting paper. Sometimes I'm just tearing paper because that's what I feel like doing.
Mm-hmm.
The L is the letting go, which I find has not been, a lot of people say it's very hard for them. That has been the easiest thing for me to do, is let go of the outcome, because I don't have a plan to begin with. So there's really not that much of letting go in that sense. That's how people understand let go. The way I understand let go is letting go of my attachment to what I have made, which is what
Mm,
makes it easy for me to give it to others. And
Mm-hmm.
because I've been doing this for 7 years with my tokens, the joy that that sparks in that person's, in the recipient's face, their life, their being, how it uplifts them. I see the
yeah.
change in the body language. I receive the hugs. So I know that letting go is easy, because when I let go of this, the ripple effect is just so much more. It brings so much back to me, the letting
Yeah.
go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then E is the embrace, and not in terms of just embracing what you've created, but embracing how you have become a different version of yourself by immersing yourself in this practice, in this process, from when you were reflecting. Whether that ripple practice is 5 minutes long or 2 hours long, there's usually something to embrace at the end, which is different from the beginning.
That is so beautiful. And I hope that all of our listeners will embrace the ripple effect, because I mean it is just so lovely. And but as you were telling us this too, I had a question about, those voices in your head when you were very young that said you are not an artist. And then you sat on the floor with your daughter and you finger painted. When did you push those voices away and say, I am an artist. I can do this. Because I think that's when we talk to a lot of our folks that we speak with. They've had a lot of, your parents are not unusual, I have to tell you, growing up as we did.
Yeah.
Very normal for an 80s, 90s. You have to get a job, you have to be a nurse or a teacher or an engineer, in your culture, an engineer or a doctor. But um, it's interesting. We all seem to be seeking that joy, that beautiful joy within us. And when do you remember when that started? You shut down those voices and said, I can do this. I am an artist and a writer and a creative.
I have an exact date for you. It was August 2nd last year.
Last year.
Oh, oh,
So
I
pray
have
soon.
tell, pray
I have
tell.
been doing this for 9 years now, and for 7 years I've been doing the token practice. But for 9 years I've been dabbling in art, and I never had the courage to call myself an artist, because it's intimidating when you see someone like Lori.
Mm.
And Lori, I mean this in the nicest way. You're very inspiring, but you're also very intimidating. And
Mm.
and why I say intimidating is because I think this is only true of people in the creative arts. We, for some reason, believe our impact is only meaningful when we have numbers to back it up. And
Mm.
so
Mm-hmm.
when I see people with 120,000 followers and I look at my measly 7,000 followers, I get trapped in that. I am not
Yeah.
as valid
Mm-hmm.
of an artist as Lori is. Lori's going on all these retreats and she has people flying with her to all these different parts of the country. I do a backyard gathering with 7 women because that's all
Yeah.
I can do in my season of life right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But is that not meaningful with those 7 women once a year? Or is it less meaningful than what Lori's doing with her daughter on her
No,
retreats?
it's
But we
just
fall
as
into this
meaningful.
comparison
Yeah.
trap. We just
Yeah.
fall into this, unfortunately, fall into this. And as much as we say, we lift each other up, I think it has to start from within. And
Mm-hmm.
this whole
Mm-hmm.
ripple effect that I keep talking about, I feel we're very kind and very gracious to other people outwardly, but inwardly, we are so harsh to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that realization came to me last year when I decided I was going to not be on social media anymore because it was affecting my mental health so much. Because
Mm.
I was always hustling, always, and I got trapped into this. I'm already part of Silicon Valley where this culture is the way to live. And
Mm-hmm.
Right.
then for my art to fall into that was just kind of like, what am I doing with my life? What brings
Right.
me meaning is giving away my, why am I producing all these bespoke kits and why am I doing all these, reels and trying to sell product when I don't want to make product. I just want to
Right.
make heartfelt art, and I want people to feel it means something to them, and I want them to hold on to it because they felt seen. I don't have to make money from it. And I'm
Right.
not saying it's wrong for artists to want to make money, because I do make money when I do my in-person gatherings.
Mm-hmm.
All that money then goes to getting supplies so that I can have my Ripple station stocked at all times. So
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
can
Mm-hmm.
pick up. So it's a very, I think it's a different, and I don't disregard that I come from a place of privilege. I do not have to provide for our family of three. My husband's doing that. I did have a corporate job. I did have, a six-figure salary. I had the business suits and the high heels. Been there, done that. My daughter's not seen that part of me. She sees me as the school volunteer who goes and does the SEL lesson plan for sixth graders. She sees me as the
Yeah.
mom who's doing the bulletin board, making it look pretty, or making stuff for the silent auction, and doing this art that I do. So there's many different ways of us filling our days
Hmm.
with things. And one of those things does not have to be metrics.
Yeah.
I completely agree with you, and you're causing a ripple effect. I think people go on social media maybe to cause a different kind of ripple effect. They to
Yeah.
attract people to them, but you're doing it in maybe a slightly more private way, but a more deeply meaningful way, which is really true and authentic. It's quite
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well,
I
I
mean,
feel like
I've
I
told
want to live back in the 1990s, Lori. I liked the 1990s for the analogous way we lived. There was no, like, we had walks, we enjoyed sunsets.
right, right,
We didn't take a photo every time. We appreciated. We actually stopped and looked and marveled.
We
right,
did. And
right.
I've thought with I have so many lovely college friends. I graduated in the late 80s. And I say, I think the reason we're all such great friends is because we had no phones. All we could do is talk and laugh and giggle and get into trouble and do the things that young 18 to 20-year-olds ish do. And even in my 20s, I'm so appreciative. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 28. I tell that to my students all the time, and they kind of look at me horrified. And I go, no, I think that was the best thing to date my husband and not have a phone. And we still can go out and have dates and chat. And I think that social media has its benefits for sure, but I think having the ripple effect personally in real face-to-face conversation is just as deep and just as meaningful. And I do agree with you. I think sometimes we look at others online, and it's funny, I post flowers every day just because they bring me joy. And I went to a garden club and she's like, well, how do you make money? And I'm like, well, I don't make money doing this. Like you, I'm blessed, but I do it. I do that. I make money in other ways, but the flowers are just to bring people joy because we need a little more joy in the world. And it brings
Absolutely.
me joy, and I love to put them out there. And for me, it's the way that I can be creative. And it's a special thing to do. And I think for our listeners, I love that you shut down those voices, though, that told you you weren't an artist. And I love when I asked you, the very first question I asked you is, have you always been an artist? And you said, we are all always artists. And I love that you've gone back to that, because we are all artists in some way. We're all creative, and we have to let that creativity just shine. And I think that's what, when we talk to all of our listeners, many of them have had it shut down. And it's when they stop listening to those voices and let their heart just soar that it just comes back in such a beautiful way.
It was really beautiful too. It was kind of a full circle moment because it took your daughter watching
Yeah.
her being creative like you were when you were a girl to bring you back to that,
Yeah.
which is
100%.
quite beautiful.
And I've had this conversation with people recently too. I mean, AI is great, but it only is going to recreate what has already been done. We
Yes.
still need our imaginations to create possibility. I mean, it's within our hearts and our souls that's going to be the new and be something different, and that makes it unique. You can never create us. I mean, you can
No,
create
you
what's been
cannot. And
done.
the thing is that I think that's going to be the differentiation factor. going
Yeah.
forward. It's these in-person things. It's the tangibles, the tactile, because that you know for sure is
Yeah.
human produced.
Yeah.
Right.
So you've written this book. We've had the most amazing conversation. When is your book coming out, first of all?
Hopefully fall of 2026. My manuscript right now is with the editors, and I'm waiting my final edits. I've taken all the photos. There's over I don't know, 150 photos of different kinds of tokens for all
Wow.
levels of artists, different techniques, because I don't have a niche. My daughter actually asked me last year, Mama, what's your niche? And I said,
Yeah.
what do you understand by niche? First, let's talk about that. So she had picked up that word from a friend who was looking at some TikTok video about some guy who does a specific kind of dance and learned the word niche. And I said, what do you think my niche is? Because my response to her usually is a question.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So she says, well, I think your tokens are your niche. And I said, beautiful, because I have been struggling with answering this question. And yes, you are correct. My niche are my tokens because I don't have one particular style. I do everything. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's because I
Yeah.
get bored. I just get
Yeah.
Yeah.
bored of doing the same thing. So I don't have one particular flower that I will always make or one kind of leaf. I will try everything because I'm not afraid because I have nothing to lose. So it's really
You have
Yeah.
fun.
nothing. Isn't that the best? And I
I
love that
agree with that. Amen to that.
you have nothing to lose. And I love that you just grab paints and you just create. And I just love everything about this conversation. This has just been
Well,
so
you did
amazing.
inspire me. So at the Rebloom conference, I think I might have shared this with you. I had
You did.
we use paper plates as our palettes, and I love paint on these plates, and so I said, don't throw them away. So I have cut them up now into heart shapes, and I've made a bunch of cards that I have not yet handed them out, but there I have a stack of them, all inspired by you.
And part of the book, Lori, is going to be encouragement to hand them out because I witnessed so many women over the years who make beautiful tokens and they just stay with them in their handbag. Because my ask is don't leave it to be found. My
Yeah,
ask is that you make eye contact with a person, have a conversation, ask them their
Yeah.
name, write a
right.
note on the back. And it's very difficult the way our societies are structured. For some reason, it's very very awkward for adults to hand something that they have made to another adult because there's
Yeah.
all this fear of judgment or just, why am I giving it to them? I don't really know them. It's not their birthday. It's very transactional in that, the way we are with each other as
Yeah,
adults.
yeah,
And so I think,
Yeah.
and that is why it's a big part in the book. There's a whole chapter on how to go about handing these. Once you make them, learn how to hand them out.
I love
oh,
that.
all right.
Love it.
Challenge
Well,
accepted.
challenge accepted. Well, we ask our guests to give our listeners a little piece of advice. Do you have advice that you follow now, or someone has given you, or maybe you tell your daughter?
I think this whole conversation
Yeah,
was
it was
that.
amazing. I know we could just a little
Oh my
tidbit,
gosh, you are
a little
amazing.
token of advice.
Well, if I were to sum it all up, I think the one question or the one resistance I get from people who stop themselves from starting is, I don't have your talent, is what they say to
Mm,
me. And my response to them is, and these are people who know that I don't have formal training in art. And my response to them is, you don't need talent, you just need the courage to listen to the whispers of your heart. So if you let your
Mm,
heart do the talking, your hands will follow.
I
mm.
love that.
Oh,
That is
that should be on a
beautiful.
shirt in a
My
journal.
God.
And
I hope that makes the book. I hope
beautiful.
that is gorgeous. Oh, Monsi, thank you so much for this conversation. You started giving me chills from the minute we started talking, and you're so sweet and lovely and
Oh my
talented and
gosh, and your
amazing. And
story should be a book. I
your
hope you
story,
write your
Thank
life
you.
story
I,
sometime.
I
It's
love the
I
rebellion.
might
And
just,
I,
I'm
be.
waiting. I'm waiting for a couple of relatives to die before I do that.
yeah, but you're having your ripple effect and what you're doing in your community. And I do believe, and Lori and I have talked a lot too, that we all have these seasons. And so while your season may be close at heart and home right now, maybe it will grow in a different way down the road. You never know, but you're building and your daughter's right. The tokens are your niche. I love that.
Yeah, yeah. It's a
Oh, well,
pretty wonderful niche because it's
yeah.
based on kindness and community and sharing and creativity and all of the heartfelt things. So What a
Yes,
beautiful niche to have.
amplifying joy, because we all could do with more joy.
Absolutely.
We sure could. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today, Lori. This was incredible. And to our listeners, peace, love, and rebloom. Life is too short not to follow your passions, so go out there and let your heart plant you where you are meant to be and grow your joy.
We will be right here sharing more incredible stories of reinvention with you. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode of Rebloom.
Until next time, I'm Jamie Jameson.
And I'm Lori Siebert.
Peace, love, and rebloom, dear friends.